type of reaction last year when Angel Reese got chokeslammed by Alyssa Thomas of the Connecticut Sun. Y'all remember that? She got fouled so hard, they kicked Aaliyah Thomas out the game with a flagrant 2 foul. What did Angel Reese do? Nothing. She didn't get up and try to swing on her. You know why? The reaction was different because of who did it. And there is a lot of history there with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. You guys remember last year when Angel Reese celebrated Kennedy Carter getting that flagrant foul on the hip check against Caitlin Clark? You remember that? On the sideline, just, yeah, baby, get her, you get her. Who celebrates like that for a flagrant foul on another player if they don't dislike that player? Okay, you want some more evidence? Here's some more evidence. Remember last year when they were talking about who gets the credit for the expansion and the eyeballs and the popularity boost of women's basketball, not just the WNBA, but women's basketball in general, because of the spike in the women's NCAA tournament and in WNBA viewership? A lot of people were attributing that to Caitlin Clark, and rightfully so. This is what Angel Reese had to say, and I quote, "People are talking about women's basketball. You never would think they'd be talking about women's basketball. People are pulling up to the games. We got celebrities coming to the games, sold out arenas just because of one single game. Just looking at that, I'll take that role. I'll take the bad guy role, and I'll continue to take that on to be that for my teammates. I know I'll go down in history. I'll look back in 20 years and be like, the reason we're watching women's basketball is not just because of one person. It's because of me too. I want y'all to realize that." Now, I heard a lot of people say that I or others have made Angel Reese the villain. Did you not just hear?
RG3 called what Angel Reese did hate. He said you could see the hate on her face for Caitlin Clark. I'm not really sure when we moved in to being able to read the expressions of a person and know their intent, know their character, know their perspective. But he does understand hate because I think he also understands the hate of self. When you look at the play, which is all we can speak to as professionals, all we can speak to as analysts, Angel Reese pushed one of her teammates. Caitlin Clark had a hard foul, which is part of basketball. I feel like it was assessed correctly. And Angel Reese's reaction is the sort of reaction you get in a situation when you feel like you took an intentionally hard foul. That's competitiveness. That's rivalry. That's not hate. And so now, though, when RG3 jumps on to the hate train or to the angry train, and now follows along with what we saw from Keith Olbermann, what we saw from Dave Portnoy, as they poured on to Angel Reese to make her the villain in Caitlin Clark's heroic or hero story. Right. The one thing we know about RG3 is he's not having conversations at his home about what Black women have to endure in this country, about what young Black women and athletes like Angel Reese have had to deal with being on the opposite side of Caitlin Clark's rise and ascension into stardom. Now, when you look at it, I think A'ja Wilson is the face of the league. A'ja Wilson is the best player in the league. Caitlin Clark is the most important player in the WNBA. And a ton of her fandom has come along with some racial bias or some racial pieces to why people love her so much. And so now if you're RG3, when is the last time within your household you've had a conversation about what she's dealing with? You haven't been able to do that because in both of your marriages, you've been married to white women. You haven't had opportunities to have those conversations to educate you on what they're feeling, what Black women deal with, what they're seeing when they think of a young Angel Reese. And the whole time that he's mimicking Angel Reese and bobbing his head and moving his neck while he's doing this whole piece, his wife is in the back amening and clapping. And so to me, it's just another situation that now this young lady has to deal with. When I worked with RG3, he would make all of these sort of corny jokes about milk and how much he loved it and how important it was. And he always points out on social media the color of his wife's skin, as if the color of her skin is what makes her special, as if the color of her skin is what makes her a good wife. I've met the lady, I've had a conversation with her. Right. I think she's more than that. But it also leads to what Black women deal with a lot from Black men who have chose to date or marry outside of their race. They always feel like they have to go the extra mile to prop up the woman that they're married or the woman that they're with over Black women by denigrating Black women. I feel like we should have an opportunity to move past that and understand that Angel Reese can be great in her own right, as Caitlin Clark is as well. Caitlin Clark is a likable and lovable superstar. She pays homage to the stars of the past. She pays homage to the Black women that have come before her. And now she is carrying the mantle forward. So there's no need to pin those two against each other and paint them based on stereotypical tropes. And I think this is what I'd like RG3 to know, that no matter how much he continues to echo the microaggressions of racists, he'll be no less Black than me.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy RG3, and I just wanted to get on here and talk to you guys because there's been a lot of buzz, a lot of conversations about my sports take that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark, which was purely based in basketball. But I think all of you know there's a line in life that you just simply don't cross. Wives and children are always off limits, and Ryan Clark has sprinted past that line. Ryan Clark didn't like my sports take that Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark. And that's fine. It's okay. It's part of the game. Sports media, I'm going to have an opinion. This person might not agree with it. That person might not agree with it. But what you don't do is turn around and personally attack me and my family just because you don't agree with a sports opinion that is purely based off the sport. I didn't make it personal. But what that really shows is just how low of a person Ryan Clark is. But Ryan, you crossed the line, man. You made it personal and so. I really believe there should be no space in sports media for personal attacks. I've said it before, but certainly personal attacks against wife and children have always been off limits. Ryan, you attacked me and my family in a public forum on a level that shows just how low of a human being you are. You can disagree with me all you want. Challenge my takes, but keep my family and my wife out of it. That's a boundary that should always be respected, man. Always. Ryan Clark personally attacking me and my family because he disagreed with my sports opinion is a bad look for ESPN. It's cowardly, it's spineless, and it's weak. Ryan Clark personally attacking me and my family, personally because he disagreed with my sports opinion, is a bad look for him as a man. I hope you get the help you need, brother.
And Logan had the best home life, the most present mother, the best provider, the best support system that they possibly could. And then after that, after taking care of that family for decades of her life, she's now moved on into getting a degree, getting a master's, starting a PhD program, and now working to counsel and take care of others. I don't think she deserves, she does not deserve the hate that she got because of me. To her, to my children, I am sorry. I have to start to think about how my words impact, who they impact, and the effect of the fallout on you guys. So that leads me to Greta Griffin. Let me say this before getting into reasoning, before getting into thought process. She should not have been brought up in me trying to make a point about how having Black women close to you and the things that you learn from them can help you in the way that you approach and speak to and about them. She didn't need to be the illustration of that. I could speak positively about what they are without making the insinuation that it's something that non-Black women don't do well. I'm doing the exact same thing, or it may have seemed that I did the exact same thing to her that I'm trying to keep people from doing to Black women. My thought process was, in seeing certain clips on my algorithm, on my timeline, they do a podcast together. In that podcast, they talk very openly about not being Black enough. They talk very openly about biracial kids, what it's like to not be accepted in the Black community. They very rarely talk about Black women. In the video that RG3 posted that I felt like mocked Angel Reese, she was in the background. Then I love the optics of RG3, a Black man, attacking and imitating, and what I felt insulting, mocking a Black woman as his wife was in the background, almost seemingly as a prop of, and this is my feeling, of what was good, amening, nodding along, and applauding what I felt like was a personal attack. I didn't. But that doesn't mean because I have that feeling about what you do to someone else that I could do that to you. So to Greta, I was out of line. I was out of bounds. I apologize. To all of the people that don't like RG's take or takes or the way that he moves, or even if you just in this conversation take my side and want to support me, leave his family alone. It doesn't take a daily attack on his wife, on his children, to remind him that you think his take, his takes, or whatever it is the wrong thing to you. Families should be off limits. I started that by bringing her into it. I see that no matter what my intent was, the impact was different. If I had to do it all over again, I would do it a different way. And in doing it all over again, instead of pointing to what non-Black women can't do or don't do, or the conversations I don't feel like they can have, I should have pointed to what having a positive Black woman in the household could do.
So people are calling for Ryan Clark to be fired from ESPN over his comments and his take on things that RG3 said when it came to Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. So let's get into it. But what I will say first, Ryan Clark is the exact reason why we do need more former athletes in the media, because they will say what everyone else in the media is afraid to say. And I'll explain what I mean in a minute. But first, let me give you some context and background on both of them so that way you're able to understand. So this is Ryan Clark. He's a former NFL player. He played for the Steelers, won a Super Bowl with them. He now works for ESPN and is a part of his own podcast, which is The Pivot, which is a really good show. I highly recommend you listen to it. And he's just all around a great guy. Love his takes. This man over here is RG3, which is Robert Griffin III. He played at Baylor. He was a quarterback. I'm pretty sure he won a Heisman, if I remember correctly, too. And he also used to play for what was the Redskins then, but it's now the Washington Commanders. He had a really nasty injury, and then it ended his career. And actually, that is how Kirk Cousins got his start in his career. Oh, but yeah, now he works in the media as well. Now, I do want to say that Ryan Clark is definitely pro-Black women. And I don't mean that simply just because, oh, his wife is Black. No, he is a pro Black women, because when the Diddy video first came out, when Diddy was beating Cassie in that hotel and he talked about that video, he said he would never support Diddy. He's done with him, and talking about like seeing him do that to a woman and how, like, you know, he has a Black wife, you know, Black woman in his family and things like that, and like it just would not be tolerated. So he is one who has always shown that he stands for his Black queens, period. And if you knew this context, you would understand why his take on about what he didn't like about what RG3 said, you would understand this would not be shocking to you at all. Now, RG3, let's get into him. His take on it was not shocking either. He has been known for years on Twitter, always talking about how he has a white wife, his white wife. Like, it has nothing to do with anything, but he wants to make sure you know, like, his wife is white, not just like my wife. But I'm pretty sure, like, I was a kid then. My dad always talked about this. I think it was when he was at Baylor when he first got into the league, that the reason that he dates white women is because back in the day, Black girls didn't like him. So honestly, I think, I'm not going to speak for him, that's where he has like this little vendetta, because I think he's still low-key upset that Black girls didn't like him back in the day because he said he was ugly. Furthermore, let's continue. So now you have some context. After the Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark foul, RG3 was on, I guess I'm going to say it was his podcast. I take it, I don't know. He had a mic in front of him, and he had his white wife, as he likes to always reiterate, sitting in the back, sipping on something with her legs propped up. And he's just going on and on about how Angel Reese is just jealous of Caitlin Clark because, you know, she just hates Caitlin Clark, and making like these funny and joking remarks. He has his wife, who is white again, laughing in the back as he's tearing down a Black woman, which I'm not going to lie, that would piss me off. But anyways, so Ryan Clark is then on the Pivot podcast, and he basically just said, because RG3 has never been married to a Black woman and that he loves to let us know that he only dates white women, he's not at home having these conversations where he would be able to even begin or understand what it's like for Angel Reese as a Black woman and the experiences of what she has in this world as a Black woman. Oh, and not to mention, he was also doing like ghetto girl gestures. Okay, like so disrespectful. Again, why he has his white wife in the back just laughing, kikiing. Okay, not in her head agreeing with him. And what Ryan Clark said was literally actually facts. And all Ryan Clark said was exactly fact. Because he has for real never been married to a black woman, he can't have these kind of conversations at home because he doesn't know what it's like. But now RG3 is trying to say that, you know, Ryan Clark sprinted past the line of being disrespectful. He talked about his wife. He actually said some nice stuff about his wife, but I didn't play that or anything because it didn't matter. But I would definitely say this is why more men who are former athletes need to be in the media, because they already have their name, image, and likeness. So they're not afraid of losing their job by speaking the truth, whether that's about a league that they need to speak facts about or about another media person. They can say those things with confidence because, one, they know it's facts, two, it's correct, but also they're not afraid of losing their job. Ryan Clark will still be Ryan Clark, whether he was at ESPN or not. He's still going to have to pivot. He would be able to start his own things because he has his own name, image, and likeness. So he doesn't need it. But anyone else that was in the media probably would not point this out with RG3 because they probably would be afraid of losing their job. But it's still facts. He cannot have these kind of conversations. And again, the issue is just not because he's not married to a black woman. It's the fact that you are putting down black women constantly to uplift your white wives, because that's not his first one. It's just ridiculous. And then the stereotypes, like, get over it. Black girls didn't like you back in the day because they thought you were ugly, but like now your character is ugly too. Anyways, we are a Ryan Clark stand on this page, okay? We do not play. That's a black king right there, okay? And I ain't just saying because he's married to a black lady. But anyways, that's your update. Let me know what you think on this. I just say he just needs to just pipe down and mind his business. RG3, don't think he should obviously be speaking on the black woman experience if he don't know what it's like, rather from his woman or obviously himself. See you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Okay. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Happy Tuesday. If you're here, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Show some love on the Cash App or Venmo if you like what we're doing here. And also be sure to check out my shop. You can get your latest edition of It's Not Jermaine's Fault, or also pick up a shirt or just show support. Show support to your favorite content creators. Anyways, without further ado, I wanted to touch upon this topic real quick because I'm not really a big sports fan, period. Like, I've never really been big into sports like that. My husband is for sure, and other people I know, but to me, it's just something I'm not really into. But the story was so big, like, you couldn't not see it, right? And so, and I thought what was so interesting about this conversation was not necessarily the feud between these two Black men, right? These two ex-professional athletes, but the question that it always brings up about men who were in interracial relationships. Now, y'all know I've done quite a bit of work on my channel about divesting and swirling and what that means for Black women and some of the different racooning we see being promoted around Black women, right? And I've done that because there's not a lot of comfort, I believe, in Black America with the ways in which raccooning or self-hating can show up among Black women. Like, we're really cool. We are really cool pointing it out among Black men, right? Black women and Black men will easily point out someone they think is self-hating. Nobody has a problem with that. But when it comes to Black women, I think it's a little harder for us. So again, I've done a lot of work on Black women and divesting and swirling and a lot of the, raccooning behavior around that. But, that doesn't mean that Black men are off the hook. This question still roams around on whether or not a man who basically dates out is a raccoon or somebody who is self-hating. I have said multiple times that I don't have a problem with anybody who is in an interracial relationship. I know some of y'all may have different spiritual or religious beliefs, but just on a basic human level, I don't have a problem with two consenting adults falling in love if they're of different races. To me, that's not the problem. The problem only becomes if the person is falling in love or is in a relationship with somebody of another race, but they continue to spend all of their energy now going and down talking and disrespecting the race and the culture that they came from. That's when the optics look hella bad. And while I don't know a ton about RG3, honestly, like I said, I'm not super deep into sports about that. Some of the different research that I've done says that he has a history of saying things that are very, very disparaging, or at least he has a history of being a lot harder on Black women, on just Black female athletes. And, the reason he faces a lot of fire is because he's with a white woman. And to my understanding, he's only been with white women, or at least he's only married white women. So it's one thing if you're a dude who's just criticizing Black women, you're doing what you do, but you still go home to a Black woman, you still have kids with them, a family, it's whatever. Like, I mean, you still may get some pushback, but people aren't looking at you sideways. But if you're a Black man and you spend, you know, a lot of your time finding ways or finding reasons to criticize Black women, and you have a Becky with the good hair right next to you, people gonna look at that sideways. And so that's what this whole situation, I think, really brought up. And, you know, what's funny is, you know, we obviously know he got called out, right? He got called out. And what we find out is that Ryan Clark also had a white baby mama at some point. He had a child with a white woman. But because he's with a Black woman right now, and because he does, you know, go out of his way to defend a lot of Black women, I think he overall gets a pass. Kind of like Russell Wilson, right? Like, he was initially married to a white woman, but now he's married to a Black woman, right? He's married to Ciara, and he's always parading her around, doing nice things for her, giving her gifts and letting her do her thing. So like so he's accepted among the sisterhood because, you know, he came back to his senses, kind of thing. So I don't know if that's what's going on here, but anyways, I just thought this whole situation was interesting, not necessarily because of I mean, we see this stuff happen all the time, these kinds of feuds, but more of the conversation that it brings up. In today's climate, right, in 2025, in today's political and social and economic climate, where the dating market is just, there's so much going on. I'm just curious on, you know, how the perception of Black men who date out, and specifically the perception of Black men who date white, how is that changing and evolving? Is it changing and evolving? Is there always going to be a level of criticism that a Black man will receive, even if he's dating a white woman and he's hella respectful? He could be dating a white woman but he still invests in Black causes. He's funding different things. He's funding Black film businesses. Do we have to be in acceptance that Black men, no matter what they do, if they date a Becky with the good hair, they're always going to face a level of criticism or critique? Or has the culture evolved, or some would argue devolved, to a place to where, like, that's not that big of a deal? I don't know. I see here you guys saying Ryan is pandering. So Ron Clark should not get a pass. Okay, so why shouldn't he get a pass? I'm curious. Now I see here the question is big. Okay, so you think, I know some of you guys are in here, you're just like, I don't care. I cannot give up my Black queens. I don't care what's going on. At the end of the day, if it's that bad, I'm just going to go to the continent. I'm going to go somewhere else. Like, there are other, like, the world is so broad, and the internet has made it accessible to where you can find your type somewhere. They may not be in your state. They may not be in your community. They may not be in your country, but you can find your type somewhere. So I know some of y'all are just committed irregardless, right? Let me see. But yeah, I was just kind of curious your guys' thoughts. I didn't really have a ton. I can't say I really have a strong opinion either way, with respect to, yeah, like I said, like with respect to somebody dating out. I don't really care about somebody does that, as long as they are still respectful to their culture and they just live their life and they're doing cool. My issue becomes if they now use the idea that they've dated out to every 15 seconds lambast or undermine their own community. That's why I have a lot of smoke. That's why I was having smoke with the Divesting Swirling movement, because it wasn't really about them expanding their options and having love. It became a reason for them to parade white men around and use it as a way to try to promote white supremacy, right? So that's why, y'all know, I've had a lot of smoke with that Divesting Swirling movement. But, you know, when it comes to these kind of situations, I'm just kind of curious what y'all think. You said, as Black people shame Serena Williams. You know, nah, I mean, I think by and large, Serena Williams is going to get respected. I do think there's double standards. I've said this before, there are double standards. A Black man who dates out, I think, still is going to face a little or a lot more, depending upon the situation. Like, you can be a Black man who dates a white woman and you'll never be pro-Black. Everybody will make fun of you, your hair, the way you talk. Like, there's nothing about you that's ever going to be Black enough. If you're a Black woman who is married to a white man, there's still a pass for you. There's still a pass for you. I mean, let me see. I just seen this now. I know some of y'all gonna say, "Oh, this is tether, right? Tether." Some of you guys gonna say this, but I want to give you guys a prime example, because this is not limited. This is not limited to America. You see this stuff across the diaspora. But let me just show you an example. I saw this tweet. Let me see if I can find it. I saw this and I was like, "Oh, this is a prime example, right?" So, This woman, she had a viral tweet. Let me show you guys, because bringing up this example, I absolutely believe there's a double standard about when Black women and Black men date out. And listen, here's how they justify it. Y'all remember that breakdown I did of Sabby Sabs just last week? The way ladies justify it is saying it's the numbers. Like, there literally aren't enough Black men around. So when Black women date out, it's because they have no option, or it's because the pickings are slim. And so it's never attributed to self-hate. Generally speaking, it's not attributed to self-hate. Now that we have social media, now that Black men have a voice, that have their space, we're starting to see more pushback. But by and large, like, we know when Black women date out, there's always an excuse as to why they needed to do that, and it wasn't attributed to self-hatred. But when a Black man does, I still personally think that there is still a lot more negativity associated with that. Even if the Black man is cool and he's not doing anything, he's not, speaking negatively on Black women, like, he's actually trying to support Black causes. Like, even in those cases, he's not necessarily going to have the support. But the optics do look bad if you are a Black man. Honestly, if you're a Black man, you're married to a white woman, and it seems as if you are consistently criticizing Black women, that's when it looks bad. That's when it just looks, in my opinion, it looks self-hating. Even if it's legitimate, even if your complaints are legitimate, it just, the optics around that, I think, can definitely give a reason for somebody to be like, bruh, like, this is kind of raccooning-ish. Okay. And let me see. But I wanted to show you guys, this is slightly related, because, okay, so let's just account, right? I just heard about her, I think, yesterday. She calls herself African prosperity activist. So right now we're leaving America, right? We're going across the diaspora. She calls herself African prosperity activist. So she's all about, obviously trying to improve the continent, et cetera, et cetera. She had some viral tweet. Let me see if I can find it. She had some viral tweet. Was it, when was that tweet? Okay, this is going to take too long. This is going to take way too long. But okay, I just want you guys to set the record straight. This is a African prosperity activist. She's done TED Talks. She's done all kind of different things, right? What I wanted to illustrate to you guys is how you can be considered an activist as a Black woman, whether you are in Black America, okay, or whether you are across the diaspora in Africa. You can be considered an activist, but actually still date white. And this is what I wanted to show you, because I saw this and I said Black Twitter is undefeated. Y'all are undefeated, right? So this Black prosperity activist, African prosperity activist, right? She had this tweet go viral. It says, "I genuinely think Africa would develop faster once we stop idolizing Thomas Sankara, Kwame Nkrumah, Jerry Rawlings, Patrice Lumumba, and stop failing for the Ibrahim Traore propaganda that's going on right now." So she actually seems to be against what would be considered Black progress, although she's an African prosperity activist. Then somebody posts, "This you?" They post this. So to my understanding, let me see. I want to confirm. She's married to a white man. She's married to a white man, right? And so, but what I'm saying is, you have this African prosperity. This lady, literally, she's talking about what Africa needs to do, how Africa needs to improve the prosperity of Africa. And by and large, the optics is horrible, because she's actually speaking against Black African leaders, like men who actually did things to try to improve their community, right? But I'm saying that because she had all this stuff to say about improving Africa, and this is her husband. But why I'm saying that as an example is because Black women, and this is just not just in America, okay, across the diaspora, I feel like there's just a little more leniency when we see a Black woman with white skin, because the narrative has been out there for quite some time that the numbers aren't there. We see, like I said, that's literally what Sabby Sabs did. She was like, it's the numbers, y'all. Like, it's the math doesn't map. It is the numbers. They're in prison, or they're gay, or they're DL, or they're already snow money. But like, because so many people are just in acceptance that there literally aren't good Black men out there, when a Black woman shows up with a white man, then it's like, okay, water under the bridge. It's not as big of a deal. Also, we have to remember that, like, the historicity. We have to remember, like, what's actually gone on in this nation too. Like, Black women actually like interracial sex has happened between Black men and Black women since the inception of this nation, right? So it's like, I think ingrained in the subconscious ingrained in the American subconscious is the sexual interaction between Black women and white men. So I think it just, honestly, there's just less surprise. I think there's less of a reaction to it because it's been going on for so long. So that's another reason I think Black women, when they're with white men, not to say it doesn't get scrutiny, but I don't think it's scrutinized the same way when Black women are with white men, because there's always been a lot more fear. There's always been fear associated with Black men who are with white girls. Going all the way back to the movie The Birth of the Nation, which was the first movie to be shown in the White House, which was all about a Black man who was going and trying to take advantage of a pure white, helpless white woman, right? So that's what I'm saying. I want a little bit of a tangent, but I wanted to say how I think there is obviously a difference there. And I think that's kind of what, these kinds of topics bring up. Now I think just like a basic level. Oh, you guys, sorry, give me one moment. I gotta go on a quick break, guys. Give me 1 second. Okay, guys, bear with me. Okay. Anyways, guys, like, share, subscribe. But anyway, so real quick, what I was saying is, like, we understand the history is a little bit different, and we also understand that, like the relationship Black men versus Black men with white women is different than Black women with white men. Like, there's a whole history behind that. But this situation, like on a basic level, I think anytime you have a point of view around sports, you have a point of view around a game, like I do think that it's kind of off limits to bring people's family into it. Like you want to keep that out as much as possible. But also at the same time, like we can be honest about the fact that like the optics can look bad if there is a Black man who is with a white woman who seems as if he spends a lot of his time criticizing Black women. And I know this is basically a lot of the criticism that he got, right? This is a lot of the criticism that RG3 got. They're saying it's like, bro, like, why are you sitting up there and it seems like you're always criticizing Black women when you're with a white woman there, and then you're going out of your way to talk about how you're with milk. Like, so, right? And so again, that's a lot of the ire, that's a lot of the discussion, and it brings up this larger conversation. Like, are Black men who are with white women always like this? Like, are Black men who with white women always going out of their way to fetishize or to idealize the white skin of their partner, of their wife, of their fiance, girlfriend, or whatever? And are they always using that as a way to try to lambaste or critique Black women? I don't think so, honestly. Like, I know there are cases when there are Black men who are with white women or women of other races, and like they're cool. Like she gave him the best offer, honestly. Like she offered him a good deal. They work out together, like they work well together, they love each other, and that's it. Like he doesn't mean he hates Black women, doesn't mean that he thinks Black women are horrible. It's just these ladies literally offered him the better deal. And so he went with the best deal or the most convenient deal, and that's it. I've seen that. Just like I know Black women personally who are in relationships with white men, and they don't go out of their way to talk about, Black men every 15 seconds and how horrible they are. They fell in love with a white man. They're living their life. They're raising their mixed kids. And that's it. Like they have no need to go out and try to find reasons to undermine or try to tear down the image of. So it's like, just by nature of somebody being in a interracial relationship, obviously it does not mean that they are raccooning or that they hate themselves, right? In my opinion, like there are people out there who are literally just living their life, and that's how deep they see it. But I do understand when you start having influence, when you have presence, when people see you, like it does become a bit more political. Who you're married to becomes political. How you act, what you do becomes more political. I'll bring up, for example, Barack Obama. Michelle Obama is what really made Barack Obama Black. She's what really made him, in my opinion, get the Black vote. Because if Barack Obama had a white wife, I don't think he would have won. He needed like an unambiguously Black woman to win the support of Black women, and then even just Black men too. Like him being with a dark-skinned Black woman wasn't just love. I'm sure it was also very much a smart political move too, because that made him in that sense. So that's what I'm saying. It's like those relationships, yeah, there's love, but there's also politics. It can also be very political, particularly if you are a person who's going to have money, influence, or legacy of any means. Okay, this one here says, hypocrite Ryan has bastard white children, but tried to speak out like Umar. He couldn't beat RG's argument of Reese versus Caitlyn's actual history. So, like I said, I don't even watch the WNBA like that, but I just saw this become about Black men being raccoons and relationship stuff. That's all. And it's crazy. It's crazy how like something so simple as sports can really bring out some of these deeper questions. But yeah, no, I appreciate the super chat. I appreciate the super chat. I know Black women are walking with him because it seems like he defends Black women. This one right here says, why am I called a raccoon? Because Black women view me as Steve Urkel, but white women view me as Obama. That's my fault. Literally that part. Okay, moment of truth. I mentioned this in previous lives, or I think just in previous moments, that when I was younger, there was a certain time in my life where I also believed that most Black men who dated out had some raccooning, had some self-hating. Like I really believed at some point that there were Black men out there who like struggled with raccooning more so than Black women. Because that's just what I heard my entire life. And I never heard anything else to think otherwise. I never heard anyone tell me that there was another perspective. So I just assumed that was true. Right. But it wasn't until I started hearing men, right, listening to men. And then also actually when I started learning history and started to understand the ways in which Black women themselves were incredibly self-hating, that I had to expand my belief and recognize that it's not always as simple as, oh, you hate your mama. You hate your mama Black. So it's not as simple as a man being shamed into just trying to date a Black woman because his mama Black. Some Black men are so traumatized by their Black mama that they don't want nothing similar to her. They may love her, but they may be traumatized as hell. And they just want to run the opposite direction. And so they will run into the arms of a Becky with the good hair because it just seems different from what they grew up with. That's a hard pill to swallow for some, but it's true. Right. But I'm just saying, it's like, it's not so simple as you hate your mama, you hate being Black, so you were the white woman. It's actually really not like that. Like there are legitimate times that, you mentioned here, there are times when there are straight good dudes out there, if they have their preference, who would love to be with a Black woman, a self-respecting Black woman. And the Black woman just aren't interested when he's building himself up. They're not there when he's, in school studying, or he's, writing out his business plan, or going through the sacrifices that are needed to actually get to a place where you would be considered desirable economically. Because let's just be clear. Women want men with money, assets, and resources. We know this. And I've also noticed a lot more recently, I was telling my husband this, I was like, when I see those videos of women, really of any race, who are going online and bragging about how amazing their man is, they always lead with the pocketbook. They always start up with, listen, my man pays all my bills. Like almost, I feel like 99.9% of the time I see a woman bragging about her man, it's the way in which he pays her bills or got her something nice. So women lead with materialism. They're not just like, oh, he is such an amazing man of God. Like he was praying for me, or, he was there hugging me and being my emotional support when I was, having a hard time or whatever. It's like, no, usually if I hear a woman bragging about her man, it's like how he paid stuff. So women of all races, and even when they brag, they want a man that can brag that says, he bought me this, he gave me this kind of lifestyle. That's what they're looking for. But the thing about it is, unless you are like a professional athlete, right? Where you can come into money really early, or you are the child of a millionaire. Like, if men are to have any means or resources, they usually have to build to get to that point. And what is being said here is that, how about the men who are, they're building to get to that point in their 20s or whatever, but they're overlooked because they don't have the swag, quote unquote. They don't have the swag, or they don't have the energy that Black women might be interested in. They don't have the edge. And listen, I've even heard Black men, I've heard some of y'all say, yeah, these dudes are just corny. Like, they don't have any success with Black women because they're corny. Like, I've heard dudes, some of y'all in my comment section, who do have success with Black women, or who feel like you don't have an issue with women, talk about how these dudes don't have success because they're just corny, or because they don't have good personal skills. So I'm just what I'm trying to articulate to you is that what I've learned is that it's not as simple as he hates his mama. Now, can we point to some self-hating dudes out there? Absolutely. But I also understand that it's actually a lot more complicated than we think. It is true that there are good men, I believe, who get looked over because they just strictly don't have the financial profile, or they're not bringing the assets that we may want, that ladies may want at a particular time. And I've also said this too. This is where I think it's cultural. It's cultural because I believe there are other cultures who, I don't know if it's intrinsically or if it's something their parent tells them or if it's just generational, but they have a way of being able to spot a man who has potential and who's going somewhere. And so, yeah, you may be considered the corny dude that's in the classroom studying, or in the library studying in your early 20s or whatever. But you see, and you connect with the Asian chick who's in your classroom, and you guys start being study partners, and you guys really get along and you vibe, or a Latina chick or whatever. And like, it becomes something. It's not because you weren't necessarily interested in the Black woman, but maybe the Black woman weren't interested in something long-term. Maybe they were trying to explore their sexuality, or maybe they were dating dudes who weren't in college, because all that happens. And another thing that I've mentioned before is that there are other cultures who are primed and ready, or are sometimes told that when they go to college, that's a good place to meet men. So they may be on the lookout for marriage material men who have the qualities associated with being husbands. This is what other cultures do. I'm not saying 100% of the time, but I'm just saying generally, yes, you're going to have white women who are going to college who are like, I want to find a husband. Yes, you'll find this in the Asian community. You'll find this in other communities. This is not the case in Black American community by and large. Black women don't go to college to try to find husbands. So again, going back to this comment about, well, what am I supposed to do if these women, if Black women think I'm Urkel when I'm building myself, when I'm, out here, maybe I'm in the tech field, maybe I'm really into science, or I'm in the lab, and I'm building myself into a particular field, and they see me as Urkel, but an Asian chick rolls up on me, or a white chick, and they're nice and they give me attention. What is a man supposed to do? And I do think that's the side of the narrative that has been left out. I do. So I can acknowledge that does happen. Just like I can acknowledge there are some self-hating men there are self-hating men who just really don't like Black women, and they have ire against them, so they always try to undermine them. Just like I can acknowledge that there are Black women who date outside their race, and it's not because of self-hatred, and there are Black women outside who date outside of their race, and it's absolutely because of self-hatred. So my thing is, you're gonna find it on both sides. But we do understand that Black men and Black women are not judged or treated the same way. Until you say, I think being smart doesn't necessarily mean that you're corny. It doesn't. But there's this thing about edge and swag and style and all this stuff that ladies can be really into, particularly when they're young. Now, here's the thing. When they get of age, they get older, the priorities start to change. And I was even talking to my friend about this. I told you one of my friends, she's like a Gen Xer. All her friends are like elite Black women. She runs in the circle of elite Black people who are like doing well, right? That's just, and so I was talking to her, and she was like, yeah, when you get to my age, and when ladies are like for example, my friend is like Ebony K. Williams, like that's kind of her peer. I mean, not her, she's not like her, but I'm saying like her peer group would be around that age. So I was talking to her a few days ago, and I'm like, we were talking about relationships, right? She's married. she's older than me. She's married like 20 years and, you know, has a happy relationship, but she has many friends. Many of her peers are single and are still waiting, you know, and trying to find a man. And she was telling me, she was like, yeah, you know, when you start getting to my age and you're single, your priorities change. Like now it's more about like emotional maturity. It's about stability. It's about, you know, some of the more intangibles these ladies are looking for. Because if you are an elite upper class woman, you still have your own money. This is what she's telling me. Now we already know many of those upper class elite women don't want to get with a blue collar worker. They may not want to, they don't want to jump classes. They just the idea, especially if you went to like if you went to a prestigious institution and then you're in a prestigious job and he goes home with somebody who's a trade skillman who actually might be very successful and might be very smart and entrepreneurial, but he's not in that space. It can be a class thing, right? So we know when you enter in class, it can create a whole bunch of unnecessary qualifications. But really, when it comes down to it, older Black women are looking for the kind of men who might be considered the Steve Urkel type, I think, in their 20s. I think the Steve Urkel type now in his 40s, when she's 40, might be considered a little more handsome and might be considered a little more desirable because of the stability and because of the emotional capacity he might have. But the thing about it is, like you mentioned, the smart guy type, the stable type, the good man type. Sometimes about that time they're already married. They've already been snatched up by another Black woman or by a non-Black woman, right? So, I mean, you know, in some ways these things are complicated, but in some ways they're really not. Like if you have a Black man who felt like he was ostracized by his women in his own race, like to my understanding, and now I haven't done a ton of research on him, but I do know that both I think the lady that I played at the end, the content creator, right, and Ryan alluded to the fact that he had some really negative experiences growing up from Black women who were not into him because they thought he was ugly, they thought he was corny, whatever. And even now, people talk about how he's kind of not Black enough. He's a little corny, you know, he's a little awkward, and so. Yeah. And so maybe if you heard that growing up all your life, and then there's a woman of another race who shows you love and respect and acceptance, I'm not mad at a man for going that way. I'm not mad at a man for going that way. But I'm saying it does look bad and it looks problematic if that happens on any side. If anybody does that, if anybody dates outside of the race, and instead of them getting integrated in their new community, right, getting integrated into white America and just championing that cause or whatever, learning about your own culture, you are still so pressed about all the issues that you supposedly escape when you date somebody else. That's to me what I don't understand. Like I said, like Black women who supposedly divest and expand their options and leave Blackistan. It's like, okay, you left Blackistan, you got you a white man or Asian man, Hispanic man. Great, that's cool. But then why are you so pressed about what's going on in Blackistan every 15 seconds? Like, to me, that's when it's like, okay, you're not being completely honest. Because somebody who's really happy with their non-Black partner doesn't need to bring up every 15 seconds that their partner is non-Black. Like, they're not constantly throwing in your face the race thing. They're not constantly doing that. They just happen to fall in love with another human and like, that's it. So yes, that's what I think that's what this whole thing really brought up. Like the optics. It's not even necessarily who you're dating or marrying as much as, well, what are you doing with that? What are you doing? And as I mentioned before, I can be an acceptance that Black women and Black men are not judged the same when it comes to interracial relationships. For some reason, you can still be with a whole white man and be considered pro-Black. You can be with a whole white man and still be considered a Black activist. In America, okay, and even in the diaspora, if you're a Black woman, you can somehow be a pro-Black African activist and want to change and improve the continent while being married to a white man, and also while actively speaking against Black male leadership. Because this tweet of hers that went viral, by the way, is her actively speaking against Black male leadership. However you want to look at it. She's very critical against Black male leadership while she's with a white man, right? So that's like the optics of that look a little funny style. It's like, those optics looks funny style. Just like with Mr. RG3, it's not like he's married with a white woman, right? Obviously, his criticism came from the fact that, like, well, what are you doing and how are you doing it? Because you have influence, right? Because people watch you, because of who you are, like, you have to be a lot more aware of your optics. Like, you have to be a lot more conscious. So because you're in an interracial relationship, the way in which you engage and talk about these things should be with a level of respect or just awareness. But you can't sit up here with a white wife sitting up there, right there, as you are like mocking and doing different things that are very, reflective of African American culture and vernacular. You're disrespecting her. Your white wife they're laughing with you, and it seems like you're always going against Black women, right? So it's like, it's the optics. It's not necessarily, to me, in my opinion, it's not like who you're with as much as it is what are you doing with it. That's to me. That's to me, that's how I look at it, right? But I do know that there's some Black men right here. You're just like, listen, if you date a white woman, you're self-hating, right? And so there are some Black women who just have that. They're like, I don't care. I do not care. In my opinion, this is who you are. No way around it. And there are going to be certain people who say that, right? Like, I mean, you can't please everybody. I don't necessarily think that is always the case. But now I will say this. To me, if you are married to a white person or a non-Black person, you certainly don't need to be the leader of anything Black. Like, I don't need to see you trying to build the community, be the one championing the improvement of the community. I don't need to see you be a leader of a nation. Like, in my opinion, if you are that's fine, but like, be on the sidelines or be the one funding or be the one supporting. But like, I don't need to see you be the one trying to set the standard. Like, you don't need to now be the leader of the Black community if you have a whole non-Black person that you go to sleep with every single day. That to me is where I'm like, nah. When you do that to a certain extent, it's not even that you revoke privilege, but you remove yourself now from certain conversations. You remove yourself from certain conversations. Like, I don't need to see I don't need to look at you as a leader, as a thought leader in anything Black when you're not creating a Black family. This is just me personally, right? This is just Shay Sharday personal things. I'm not saying that you're not Black. I'm not saying that you don't have an experience that's still reflective of that. I am just saying that you no longer need to be the leader if you don't believe in like the basics of a Black community, which is a Black family, because a Black community is made up of families. And if you're not creating a Black family, we haven't even got to step one. That's how I see it. So, yeah, so that's what I mean. It's not that you can't be you're any less of who you are, or you're any less of your experience. It's just, like I said, now who needs to be the one in charge setting the standards on what a Black family is, what a Black community is, right? What would child rearing, what are the systems, who needs to be the one setting the standard? And to me, it doesn't need to be someone who is actually establishing that dynamic with someone who's not Black, right? Because leaders are held to a different standard, which, by the way, is why I've had quite a bit of things to say about Miss Michelle Obama. Because I'm like, Miss Michelle, it's there's a lot that I respect about the Obamas, even though there's a lot of things that I don't agree with, but there are many things that I can respect. But it's like, you are not an average woman. Why are you now acting like an average woman? Can you please be a leader? Can you please stay up there and be in your leader space and have these private conversations with other people who are leading? But please don't come down here and try to appeal to Keisha. Like, that's not helping. So for me, I'm like, because leaders are held to a higher standard, and they need to be, and they should abide by a different standard to a certain extent. When they don't do that, and then when those guidelines and things start to change or erode, and you start having people who are supposed to be leading the charge and supposed to be setting the standard acting all kind of different way, it couldn't create chaos. It can create chaos. So in my opinion, it's like, yeah, you can absolutely be with somebody. And I don't think somebody dating outside of the race makes them any less of a Black person or any that makes their experience any less valid. No. I'm just saying, do you need to be the next Malcolm X? Probably not. That's all I'm saying. Do you need to be the one now, you know, trying to lead whatever Black cause? Does that need to be you? Probably not. That's just me. It doesn't mean that you can't be involved, you can't support, you can't fund. I'm just saying, like, I'm talking about leaders. And here, and be clear, there are so few Black leaders in Black America in general. And like, there are so few, like, I'm talking about leaders as far as like collectively. People can point to a random person here and there, maybe internet head or somebody who has a podcast with it. But I'm saying, as people like the Malcolm X generation and before, like, that doesn't really exist as much, so it's really not even an issue. But I'm just painting more of a point where I'm like, and when it comes to those kinds of things, that's where I feel like, yeah, I could see how politically, it's more expedient to have a Black partner, if that's your belief. If you're a person who believes in trying to create a better Black reality, and whatever that means, whether it's a better system, let's say you're a Pan-African, you want to help build a better nation, et cetera, and you are like, you want to be the leader of that, and you want to be the one that's setting the standard on how to do that, then it's like, yeah, it will be helpful to show how a Black man and a Black woman interact together. I mean, to me, that's just basic common sense. And here's the thing about it. These kinds of conversations don't happen in other communities. They just do it inherently. They just know who the leaders are or not. In Black America, there's so much confusion and there's so much non-leadership. Why are there been so many past the pork chops that now we have to sit up here and debate common sense, in my opinion. So, yeah. So that's just me. That's just mine. And then also, too, defining leader with respect to what? Like, are you talking in a church setting, a religious setting? Might be different in, like, are you businesses, industry, economy, politics? So of course, there are different metrics to that. There are different metrics to that, and not all metrics are the same. But I'm just speaking in generalities, and we understand when you're talking in generalities that there are always exceptions to the rule. Now, one thing also, let me see if there's anything else that I got. Yeah, see, the WNBA is not about critique. They should get constructive criticism. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't even watch the NBA, the WNBA, like that. One thing I can say is, like, listen, they should be happy that they're getting views, because to my understanding, the WNBA wasn't getting no views until Katie Clark, and then Angel Reese and some other people started getting some traction. So to a certain extent, even if this is all drama and it's all over bringing up race stuff or whatever, like, at least they're getting some views and maybe somebody's getting paid. Because for a while they wasn't getting no views. To my understanding, the only one the people who were the most likely to watch WNBA for a long time are Black men. To my understanding, I think they're the ones who actually watched it the most. Yeah. So I don't even watch it. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie. I do not watch the WNBA. I don't. I just know about the story because it was making headlines, and I was like, and it became less about the WNBA and it became more about the politics behind it. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, so yeah, that's all that I have. I don't really have a ton else on this story. I thought it was just interesting. Because of the question that it brings up. And yeah, I think to a certain extent, you're always going to have Black men who are going to face a level of criticism or ire. You guys let me know. Maybe let me know in the comment section. And any of you guys who are in interracial relationships or interracial marriages, if you see that you still get a lot of ire or negativity, or if you feel like you're generally well accepted. Because, like I said, I can make assumptions, but I'm not a Black man, and then I'm not married. I'm not a Black man who's married to or with someone who's not white. So I don't ever really fully know. So maybe some of you guys are in interracial relationships and it's never an issue. Like, you never feel like you're disrespected. You feel like you're really welcomed and loved. And that's great. So I'm more curious on what you guys have to think about that. You see, he said, isn't it crazy that most women don't even watch the WNBA, but they want to be paid the same and oftentimes criticize for not doing it? Yeah, I mean, they just they don't pull the same numbers, even remotely. Like, they just don't. Like, I don't even think it's necessarily, because I have heard there being complaints about, oh, misogyny or misogynoir or whatever else. And it's like, nah, like, it's just the numbers. Like, if the WNBA was pulling in the numbers and the views like the NBA, then okay, then it might be a legitimate conversation. But like, there's no comparison. And you're like, yeah, why don't women watch the WNBA? That's a very good question. For all this misogynoir and, women need to get more support and more play and support the Black queens and, women are equal to men, and for all this stuff, why aren't women sitting up there watching the WNBA? They watch it. They've watched the NBA much more, to my understanding. Now, if I'm wrong, any of you guys let me know. If you guys have stats to disprove me otherwise, let me know. But to my understanding, and from what I've seen, women, I think, overwhelmingly they still support NBA more. So yeah, so I'm like, from that, as far as like, why is the NBA getting paid a lot more than WNBA? It's just strictly the numbers. Like, that has to be a huge factor. They're just a lot more popular, and the NBA, don't they actually fund a WNBA, if I'm not mistaken? Like, isn't the NBA responsible for like funding it partially? Y'all let me see. WNBA, let me see. Yeah, it says, yes, the WNBA receives funding and support from the NBA. So like, there would be no WNBA if there wasn't an NBA. That's crazy. So it's like, this is not even an issue. This is like, there would literally not even be a team if it wasn't for the numbers and the money that the NBA pulls in. So to me, it's like the whole, why aren't you getting paid the same? It's like, yeah, you're just like, not to say maybe you can't get there, maybe you can't build up some more traction and some steam, but you're not getting paid the same because there's not the same level of demand. So you said I wouldn't fund that. Yeah, I know there's some of y'all who are like, you're not interested. This is one content creator, I don't remember his name, but he used to always call it the dump. He was just like, I'm not watching the dump. He's like, you shouldn't be funding the dump. Who wants to sit up there and watch the dump? Like, he just would, I don't remember his name. My husband would watch him. But he would just spend his whole YouTube was just basically talking about how the WNBA dump was a waste of money. So, and listen, I'm not saying that it's necessarily a dump. I'm just saying, like, I know there's a lot of people who think it's a waste of time. And so the fact that they're getting traction and they have these different people talking about it, okay. And you got to wonder, like, listen, is this the NBA's push to try to breathe life into it? Like, is media trying to help? Because I know the WNBA was struggling for some time. So to a certain extent, they're getting some traction. Maybe more people are going to be watching because of the drama associated with it. The numbers are up. Who knows? This could all be fabricated. Because before, wasn't nobody talking about them. You said there have been WNBA players getting mad. Yeah, so you can't, also, and this is respectfully. The WNBA is still made up of women. And I love us, but I know that sometimes women don't always think the most logically. Right? And I'm not trying to be misogynoirist, if that's a word, misogynoirist, but I am just stating a biological fact, okay? That sometimes the ladies are not always thinking with logic and reason. So what you said is not surprising. I don't watch it enough to really know. I've never really been interested in it, honestly. If I'm just being honest, you're like, well, why aren't women watching it? That's exactly my point. This is why I'm not necessarily too surprised that the WNBA doesn't get support like the NBA, because as a woman, I don't watch it. I'm just being honest. I really don't. I don't really care to watch it. But anytime I have seen it, the few times I have seen it is because my husband has. So So anyways, y'all, I don't have much else to say. This was just, I wanted to hop on this one real quick. But y'all let me know what you think about this whole situation. And then back to this bigger question of Black men who date out our raccoons. I mean, I think I've answered this more times than one. I mean, I think that's an obvious no. Really, anyone who dates out doesn't necessarily mean that they're self-hating, but I think it has more to do with what they're doing with it and what's motivating it. That's really the determining factor. So that's what I got, y'all. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what y'all think down in the comment section. Let me see. Where's the women? So how do they fix the issue of support? Yeah, I see what you're saying about like women will sit up here and watch bad girl stuff, Real Housewives, and all these. I'm so tired of these. Like, I am so tired of these toxic reality TV shows, the ones that are hella scripted, where it's like Temptation Island, Situationship Island. Like, we already know that's not real. Like, nobody with two brain cells to come rub together who really loves their spouse is gonna go out of their way to now put their marriage at risk. Like, if you really love who you're with, why would you now go and purposefully tempt your husband or wife to cheat? Like, so we already know a lot of this stuff is scripted. And to me, it's like, it's not even, to a certain extent, it's not even really entertaining if I know it's like hella scripted. Like, if I know these situations are so off the wall and like they're so unrealistic that I can't even call it reality TV. Like, at least some of these situations they're real enough to where even if I know it's scripted, because the situation itself seems so relatable, then I can kind of like overlook it. But we got some that are so stupid. It's like, oh, you're about to get married, but let's test and see. Like nobody does that. Like, if you're a real person in love, like, you're not gonna do that with your spouse. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'm actually more into documentaries. I can get next to a documentary. I love documentaries for sure. For a while, I was way into like prison documentaries. I was like binge watching that stuff. I'll go in phases. I'll be like prison documentaries, and then I'll be like crime, and then I do love what was it? Love on the Spectrum. I do like that one. Yeah, so I like go in my phases, but I'm more into like documentaries for sure than I am these reality TV shows where you're having sex by like episode number 2, then there's a fight maybe somewhere in like episode number 5, and then who cheated with who, and then like, it's just kind of like the same stuff, So anyways, y'all, that's what I got. We'll hang out later. Okay. Thank you for hanging out. Like, share, subscribe, show some love, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. Y'all know the drill. And also check me out. Sign up for my newsletter if you haven't already. I'm trying to get more active there so you guys can just stay up to date. Because I know a lot of you guys don't like get everything that I post, even if you have notifications. And then also to keep you guys up to updated on different events and things that I'm planning. So be sure to sign up for my newsletter if you have not already. And thank you so much for listening. And we'll talk later. Okay. Bye.
Angel might fall, let the whole world see. Black kings rising high in our own destiny. Moving through the storm, proud and bold we stand. Shining like gold, love's in command.
Miss Andre tried to put him down with a Miss Andre vibe, but Jermaine flipped the script, now watch him thrive. In a classroom of doubters, his spirit never fell. Every harsh word turned to beats that made him rebel. They came the neighborhood up, dropping wisdom like a rhyme. Challenged that old Miss Andre said, not on my time. With his wife Mia Swahili for strength and grace by his side. They set the record straight with humor and pride. In the dating game and gender wars where opinions clash and play, Jermaine and his crew keep it smooth, dancing hate away from awkward first dates to the battle of the hearts. They flip the script with funky vibes and soulful art. Talk, let them squabble, we're too fly to be confined. Every snide remark just fuels the fire of our mind. With laughter as our armor and pride, our battle cry. Black men rise above it all, reaching up into the sky.
Fall, let the whole world see. Black kings rising high in our own destiny. Moving through the storm, proud and bold we stand.
tried to put him down with her misandry vibe. But Jermaine flipped the script, now watch him drive. In a classroom of doubts, his spirit never fell. Every harsh word turned to beats that made him rebel. Then came the neighborhood bump, dropping wisdom like a rhyme. Challenged that old misandry, said not on my time. With his wife Mia Swahili for strength and grace by his side, they set the record straight with humor and hang game and gender wars where opinions clash and play. Jermaine and his crew keep it smooth, dancing hate away from awkward first dates to the battle of the hearts. They flip the script with funky vibes and soulful art. Talk, let them squabble, we're too fly to be confined. Every style remark just fuels the fire of our mind. With laughter as our armor and pride, our battle cry. Black men rise above it all, reaching up to the sky.
Fall, let the whole world see. Black kings rising high in our own destiny. Moving through the storm, proud of gold we stand. Shining like gold, love's in command.
Let them talk, let them squabble, we're too fly to be confined. Every snide remark just fuels the fire of our mind. With laughter as our armor and pride, our battle cry. Black men rise above it all, reaching up to the sky.
Fall, let the whole world